Hi, and welcome to this course on supporting students with their CVs and cover letters. Um, this course is relatively straightforward, but I think from the onset, it's probably important for me to outline one thing. There are many ways to do a CV. There are many ways to lay out, to create a CV, many different variations. It's not something that is objective, it's probably subjective. In other words, there is not one way to do a CV. There's not the definitive way. Everyone has their own interpretation. People like to give their own slant. Sometimes a CV will represent somebody's personality and their approach to life and their approach to work and so on. And that can be very, very valuable, such as a creative person might be very creative with their CV. A diligent or organized person might be very methodical with their CV. And I think you get that and you understand that at this point. But it's important to understand the purpose of this training, which is slightly different to just teaching you how to create an appropriate CV or how to support your students in creating appropriate CVs and cover letters to match with those CVs. This training course is showing you our preferred method, our way, our agreed method and way to create CVs, cover letters, and so on. This is best practice. This is what we have decided is the best way and the way we want to guide and support our students in creating their CVs, cover letters, and covering emails to go with that. So I think at this point, it would be very, very useful to park your ideas about what a CV should be, park your own ideas, your own slants and methodologies for creating CVs and cover letters, and in fact, park your own CV at this point. It's something that has come up in the past when I've run this training course, that people tend to say, almost accept that they understand how a CV should be created, having created one themselves, and a CV that's clearly successful, and therefore your eyes tend to glisten over and to skip over some of the points covered here. But that's not the point of this course. The point of this course is to show you an agreed methodology that we can all agree on. Why is that important? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. Number one, for consistency and best practice, for obvious reasons. Number two, sometimes more than one person is working on a CV. So if you're working in advising a student on how to create their CV or cover letter, and one of our colleagues, one of our team members, is subsequently dealing with that student and they're told something different, that can get very frustrating, and it can be quite embarrassing and undermine your own advice. So it's good that we're all on the same page and we're all on message. Like I said, it's best practice. A lot of the points that I've covered here come from the perspective of years of doing this, from the perspective of hearing back from our previous students and their experiences, and also as employers ourselves, what we've learned and what we've seen coming through CVs. So like I said, there are many interpretations, there are many different ways to do CVs and cover letters, so we have to stick with one format, and this is it. But you'll find that some of the best CVs and best cover letters will not deviate too much from what we're suggesting here. Like I said, everyone may have their own interpretation, but in reading textbooks and looking at what's generally agreed as best practice, you'll find that generally what we've covered here is pretty much what's covered by, I suppose, industry standard best practice. That said, I've included a few little tricks and unique ideas and little ways of doing things that really help. The other point I'd make here before you start into the course is the attention to detail. A CV is probably the most important document a person will ever create in their lives, but certainly nobody that I've ever met has approached a CV from that point of view. A CV can change your life, can change your career. Everything can stem off a successful CV. So in many ways, it can be the most important 2 pages a person will ever create in their entire life. So it deserves their attention. It deserves the attention to detail. So every little bullet point, every little bit of alignment, things that we talk about like font sizes and colors and so on, do not dismiss them here, because that's how important these things are. And it's up to you to convey that with the student. The final point I would make here, your role is to guide, support, and empower the student to create their own CVs and cover letters. Your job is not to create the student's CV. Again, by doing that, you're undermining the student, first of all. Secondly, the result would be that every Pitman training student would have exactly the same CV if you're creating it from a template and so on. So you're trying to guide and show the student what to do and be there to support them, but your job is not to create their CV, and just to realize that. So I hope you find the course useful. like I said, unlike some of the other courses, it's very straightforward. It's step by step, it's instructional, and you should at the end of this be very, very clear about what to do, what not to do, and it should answer all of the questions that come up when helping a student. Feedback from previous participants on this course has been very, very positive, and mainly that it gives you, it really empowers you to help your students. And that can be great. It can be really, really nice that when a student's in the difficult position or worrying position of applying for jobs and you know and preparing their application, that you're there to help and support them, not just in their training, but also in this important part of their lives. So I hope you find it very, very useful. And I'll talk to you again at the beginning of the first module.